Welcome to the Thrive Today podcast. I'm Natalie Born. I'm the media host for Thrive Today and the founder of Innovation Meets Leadership. Well, we are a platform for women who lead and believe, and today we are doing something that we have never done before in almost over 50 episodes. I'm going to do a solo podcast with you today. I have some things that are on my heart that I just wanted to share with our Thrive tribe, and so I wanted to do that through a solo episode. Well, one of the things I'm going to be talking about today is just an excerpt from my book, Set It on Fire, The Art of Innovation. This has been such a fun journey, just releasing this book, but I wanted to take a moment to talk to you a little bit about Chapter 3. So in Chapter 3, I asked this question: does your culture kill or cultivate innovation? And I love this quote from Albert Einstein. It says, "We can't solve problems using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them." And one of the things that I want to talk to you about today, it's something that's near and dear to my heart, is the idea of how empathy is an innovator's superpower. Think about that for a second. Empathy is an innovator's superpower. Not only that, I feel like women specifically have the ability to lean into the superpower even more so than men do, just because of how we're naturally wired. And so this is a place where, oftentimes as women, we may have been told like, hey, when it comes to your work, when it comes to your job, there's no crying in baseball, right? Well, this is a really cool superpower where you actually get to unleash your empathy. You get to unleash that side of you that is curious, wants to ask more questions, wants to dig in, wants to lean in. And so sit back, relax today, maybe grab a journal, but let's lean into the idea that empathy is actually an innovator's secret weapon. So as we talk today, I want to give you the definition of empathy. Empathy really means the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. It's interesting as you look at kind of this trend line, right, for the word empathy really didn't come into play until the 1950s, right? Around the 1950s, we started hearing the word empathy more. But to me, it really means the ability to just feel and see what others are seeing from their point of view. It's a really beautiful trait to have as a believer, not just to kind of take things at face value, but to try to get into the world of the person you're talking to. Oftentimes when you walk into a room, many people struggle with, not knowing anyone in that room. But when we kick on that superpower of empathy, we can actually realize that there are probably many people in the room that don't know anybody. And what if the empathetic side of ourselves goes and finds the person who doesn't know anybody either? See, empathy allows us to step outside of our own circumstance and see the circumstance of another. So I want to dig in today and talk to you a little bit about how I've used empathy in my role in product development. So I'll start just kind of give you a very quick overview of my career. When I was 19, I started working almost a near full-time job. I was working in customer service in the software industry, and it was actually a really fun time. It was like the .com boom. And I worked my way up from customer service to account management to training and development. And then eventually I moved into project management, and I started outsourcing in Nevis in the West Indies. And it was a blast. I mean, I will be honest with you, it was some of the most fun I've ever had in my career. And then eventually I landed in product development, working in international product development, not only helping on the mergers and acquisition side, but also growing organically in other countries. So, my track used to look like flying to the Netherlands, working with the team out there, flying back home, turning around, flying to Sweden, maybe flying to France. Just had a global career helping build products from the ground up. Something I love to do. When the 2008 economic crisis hit, I got moved over to the US side of the business and would work on over $780 million in products. And so in me is this idea ever since my career began, which is through empathy, we can know who we're serving and we can grow alongside of them. And that's been true in my career. And I know that that can be true in yours as well. So one of the things I will say is being in product development, I have seen it all. I have seen a lot of projects go well and make millions of dollars, but I've also seen products fail. And one of the reasons I believe products fail is because someone had a really good idea, but they had no clarity on three things. If you're taking notes, I would love for you to write these three things down. The first one is they did not know who it was for. The second one is they didn't know how it would help to solve the customer's problem. And the third thing was that they didn't take time to build in a place for rapid feedback so they could evolve the idea and make sure that they were building the idea for many people, not just one. As a matter of fact, all throughout my career, whether I was in product development or sales, I always knew we had a problem when it was a big client that we wanted to build something for, but we couldn't find anyone else who wanted to buy it. So the idea is N for number must equal many. That's our equation. N equals many. Whenever we build something, it has to be scalable for everyone. So when I began crafting products, the premise was I want to craft them around this idea of empathy, right? Being empathetic towards the user, being empathetic towards the buyer, really getting into their world and understanding who they are, being aware of what their needs are, being sensitive to what's going on in their world, and then honestly trying to live vicariously through them. I needed to know what they were thinking. I needed to know what they were feeling. And I needed to be able to explain that to the people that I was helping to build this product for. So I spent a great deal of time in product development, just developing and learning and understanding the needs of our customers. I want to pause here and ask about your customer. Who is the person that you engage with on a regular basis? It could be you work for an organization and your customers might be internal. Those are your stakeholders. Or you might be an entrepreneur and maybe you have a marketing platform where you help people with marketing and social media. Or maybe you own a bakery and you are baking baked goods, cakes, pies, name it, right? Wherever you are, no matter what you do for a living, you have a customer, even if that's your boss. And so for you to get in the head, right, in the headspace of your customer and really understand who they are and what you're building for them, this will actually make or break your success. It will. Because if we don't ask the right questions, we won't get the right answers. And sometimes the fortune is in asking the right question. So I want to take you through kind of this equation that I do as I'm building something from the ground up, whether I'm launching a product, writing a book, launching a podcast, whatever it is, right? How do I get into the mind of my customer? The first thing I do is I use an empathy map. Now, all of the tools I'm going to talk about today are available on setitonfire.co. You can download free frameworks there that will allow you to walk through some of these exercises that we're going to do together. But one of the first things I do when I'm getting in the head of my customer, we actually call it a big head exercise. So you can draw a head on your whiteboard or on a piece of paper, and then you can group it into these areas: thinking, seeing, saying, doing, also hearing, and then pains and gains. So what is my customer thinking about? What are they thinking about every day? What are they seeing in the world around them every day? What are they saying? Maybe they're saying it to themselves. Maybe they're saying it to a colleague. Maybe they're saying it to their end customer. What are they doing? So what are some of the natural, just habits and rhythms that particular customer has? What are they hearing? Maybe from their boss, maybe from the market. And then what are their pains and gains? So the pains are the things that are frustrating to them, right? That they just have to deal with every day. And then their gains are the benefits, the value, right, that they see out of things. If we understand their pains and gains and we can build our product around that, we will create the lasting impact that we want in their life. And that's what we want ultimately, right? More than success, We want to create a life of significance. And the way we do that is by solving problems for people. It's true. And so one of the things we want to do is get very, very curious. There's a couple different ways we can do this. We can brainstorm on our own just based on conversations we've had, or we can actually go walk over to the office of a customer, meet them for lunch, for dinner, for coffee, and we can ask them, can I have 30 minutes just to ask you questions, right? So I want to get in their world. I want to immerse myself in their world because they're my ideal client. I want to immerse myself in their industry, and I want to know as much about them as I can through reading, through social media, through all the different places that they go day to day. I want to really get into their world. And when that happens, I can start to ask questions. I can ask them, what thoughts do they have in their world? What challenges are they experiencing? What are the pains, right, that they face every day? As I really dig in and ask them these questions, I'm looking for clarity. I'm looking for aha moments. I'm looking for patterns. Now, here's something I say all the time, and I feel like it's very true. Innovation at its core is the ability to surface and monetize patterns. So if I can begin to talk to them and surface these patterns, eventually I'll be able to monetize these patterns. Let me give you an example. Several years ago at a company I used to work at when I was in product development, I would go out and meet with a customer. Every couple of weeks, I would try to meet with 3 or 4 customers. I would just try to make it a trek of mine, right? Every 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going to go out, meet with multiple customers, bring all this information, intel, data back that I can just churn through and think about. And in one particular trip, I picked up on a pattern. We actually had a competitor that was in the marketplace eating our lunch. They were actually holding and housing these meetings where they would bash us and talk about us. And they were very grassroots. They were very effective. It was actually the market that I was in at the time. We were really worried about this brand new, shiny competitor that came on the market. And so I started talking to customers. Okay, what stories are they telling you? What are they saying? Talk me through it, walk me through it, and how much of it do you think is true? And so as I began to listen to what the competitor was saying about us, some of it was actually fair. Some of it was true. So I began to ask them, okay, if we were to build a competitor product to what they're saying they can do for you, would you stay with us? And surprisingly, most of my customer base said yes. If you build a competitor product, we will stay with you. Well, we did one better. We built something even better than what they were trying to build. We skipped ahead of the market and we were able to beat them. Today, this competitor is no longer around. And so often what we know is through sitting with our customer, by being close enough to them to get feedback, we can actually begin to move from just a vendor to having a real relationship with that customer where we're seen as a partner. So much so that they were willing to tell me what competitors were saying about our product. So let me ask you a question. How often do you get in the life of your customer? How often do you ask them hard questions that maybe you don't even want to hear the answer to? Like, how am I really doing? What's it like to be on the other side of me? And how can I better meet your needs? How can I go above and beyond the service, the features, the products that I provide for you? It's a beautiful question, and it's one that enables us to move ahead in the market. Again, we're not just going after success, right? Success is short-lived. We're going after significance. Significance is long-term. And wherever we find ourselves, whatever industry we find ourselves in, whatever business we find ourselves starting, we should be the best that we can be in that business, in that industry, not doing it halfway, but we should go all in and provide the very best service, the very best experience that we can. So I'm going to land the plane for now, but I hope that this sparks something in you. I hope it sparks a customer conversation that you need to have this week. If you work within an organization, I hope it sparks a conversation with a colleague. no matter where you find yourself, I hope that you will spark a conversation, an unexpected conversation that you wouldn't have had otherwise. Because if I'm not asking my customer what it's like to be on the other side of me, if I'm not asking my customer how I can better serve them or improve, then I am actually declining and I'm moving backwards. But a lot of what we want to do is move forward and advance. And honestly, that's my word for this year is advance. And whatever I put my hand to, I want to move forward. I want to advance. In very small ways, we can make a big difference by asking the right question. Now, in my study guide, I have even more questions that I dig into for chapter 3, because that's how important I feel it is to ask yourself, does your culture kill or cultivate innovation? So a couple of questions I want to leave you with from the study guide. I won't leave you with all of them, but does your organization struggle with alignment? If so, in what areas and how can you affect change there? And what are your strategic targets? So how often do you talk about them with your team? Or hey, if you're a solopreneur and an entrepreneur, how often do you look at your strategic targets? Are you looking at them every day? How do you measure your strategic targets? And how do you celebrate them? And that's the thought I want to leave you with. Work hard, but build in time for celebration. Build in time to stop, be empathetic to yourself, and celebrate your wins along the journey. I hope you enjoyed this solo episode. And, I hope you'll take action. I hope that you will head over to setitonfire.co, download some of those frameworks, start to engage and interact with those frameworks, and don't be left in the dust when it comes to innovation within your organization or within your business. Keep advancing, keep moving forward. Thank you for joining us for the Thrive Today podcast. Be sure to follow, share, subscribe, and like this episode on all your social media platforms. And head over to setitonfire.co if you want to learn more about me. You can also go over to Innovation Meets Leadership on almost any platform and follow me there. And head over to thrivetoday.com because here's what I want to ask you. Almost weekly, I have people ask me, would you be willing to mentor me? And I say yes through thrivetoday.com because that's where I'm putting all of my mentor energy is into thrivetoday.com. So go over to that community. You can sign up today. Enjoy like-minded women who are walking the same walk with you. And I want to ask you a question. If you haven't got into community yet, what are you waiting for? Head over to thrivetoday.com to learn more, and I will see you next time. Don't forget to thrive.